in a world that rewards noise, the loudest voice, the boldest flex, the constant performance. The truth is, the most powerful people aren't always the ones making the most noise. They're the ones who know when to stay silent, who observe instead of react, who don't chase attention because they command it. You see, Stoicism doesn't teach you how to be nice. It teaches you how to be internally unshakable. It's not about being passive. It's about being strategic, still, and dangerously self-controlled. And today, you'll learn 9 Stoic habits that will make you unpredictable, untouchable, and always one step ahead. Because in the chaos of modern life, silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon. Most people think Stoicism is about being calm, about being unbothered, about walking away from chaos with your head held high. And yes, there's truth in that. But Stoicism isn't just about being peaceful. It's about being precise, strategic, mentally lethal. It's the ability to walk into a storm and not flinch, to face emotional chaos without leaking a single ounce of reaction, to stay quiet, not because you don't know what to say, but because you don't need to. The habits you're about to learn aren't just about becoming wiser. They're about becoming unreadable in a world addicted to exposure. They'll help you outsmart others, not by overpowering them, but by mastering yourself. Each section in this video is a key, not just to more clarity, but to something far rarer in today's world, true internal power. And remember, the quieter you become in the right moments, the more control you gain over yourself and over everything around you. Everyone struggles. Everyone hits walls. Everyone breaks down quietly in places no one sees. But here's the difference. Some people use their challenges as fuel. Others use them as identity. And one of the most underrated superpowers in life is not talking about your problems. Why? Because every time you repeat your pain, you reinforce the story that you're helpless. You give power to the obstacle and slowly strip it away from yourself. Now don't get this twisted. Venting has its place. We're human. We need release. But if every conversation is a rerun of how hard life is, you're not releasing pain. You're rehearsing it. And worse, you're programming your mind to believe it's permanent. The Stoics saw this. They taught what stands in the way becomes the way. Meaning the obstacle isn't the problem. Your reaction to it is. And when you complain, you give the obstacle more weight than it deserves. But when you stay quiet and move forward, you reduce that weight by half. Here's something you probably never hear. Complaining is a form of self-sabotage. It makes your brain feel like you've already done something, like you're in motion. But you're not. You're just looping. You don't get stronger by talking about the storm. You get stronger by walking through it, with calm, deliberate steps. This is where we introduce a Stoic technique I call challenge transmutation. Here's how it works. You take the energy of stress and turn it into something practical, concrete, measurable. You make a plan. You create a ritual. You break the chaos into steps. And those steps become your armor. For example, you're overwhelmed at work. Break your day into micro-commitments, 15-minute bursts. Track progress. not perfection. Forget the grand solutions. Focus on the next tiny controlled action. You're dealing with emotional pain. Build it into a daily system of stillness. Journal the emotion, but don't dwell. Stretch, walk. Turn your heartbreak into fuel for health, into discipline, into stillness. Let the challenge build your inner schedule. Let it restructure your day instead of disrupt it. Because here's the thing, people who talk about the fire usually get burned by it. But those who move through it in silence, they become fireproof. You don't need to announce your battles. You don't need a round of applause for surviving. What you need is self-respect, built brick by brick in the dark. So here's your Stoic reminder. Every time you want to say this is hard, stop. Ask what small action would solve 10% of this right now. Then do it. Not for show, not for praise, but because that's who you are now. A person who moves quietly but always moves forward. That's how you gain momentum. That's how you outsmart chaos. With structure, with discipline, with quiet strength. Because in a world of noise, the most powerful person is the one who never had to say they were strong but showed it anyway. And that's exactly what the Stoics meant by, don't talk about challenges, transmute them. Not everything you feel needs to be said. Not everything you dream needs to be shared. In fact, some of the most powerful energy in your life should stay locked in silence, because discretion isn't weakness, it's armor. The Stoics knew this. They believed that what's sacred should be protected, and your inner world, your plans, your pain, your deepest intentions is sacred. Here's the truth. No one tells you oversharing isn't vulnerability. It's a leak in your foundation. See, your personal secrets, your goals, your wounds, your vision. They're not just information, they're formless energy. They haven't solidified yet. They're still shaping into something strong, something meaningful. And when you expose that energy too soon, you allow other people's doubts, projections, and opinions to start rearranging your blueprint. Suddenly, your dream doesn't feel as clear. Your direction doesn't feel as firm. Your voice isn't fully your own anymore. Why? Because your inner fortress just got invaded. And most of the time, it's not malicious. It's subtle. Someone says, "Are you sure that's realistic?" Someone raises an eyebrow. Someone tells you how they would do it. And just like that, your instinct starts doubting itself. That's why Stoics practiced strategic silence. Seneca once said, "If you want to keep a secret, keep it to yourself." He wasn't preaching paranoia. He was protecting purity. Because your deepest thoughts aren't for public consumption. They're for cultivation. Think about it like a garden. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to show people. You protect it. You water it. You give it sunlight and time in silence. That's how it becomes something. The same goes for your ideas, your values, your self-work. The less they're exposed to noise, the more they grow in alignment with who you truly are, not who the world wants you to be. This isn't about secrecy. It's about selectivity. Not everyone deserves to know the real you. Not every environment is safe for truth, and not every friend is built to hold your vulnerability with care. So, Stop bleeding out your soul for validation. Stop handing over the blueprint to people who don't even know how to build themselves. Instead, guard your energy. Let your privacy become your power. Let your mystery protect your momentum. Because here's something wild. The less people know about your next move, the harder it is for them to interfere, distract, or copy. And in a world addicted to broadcasting, being unreadable is an act of power. Here's your practice. Before you speak, pause. Ask, does this person have the depth to receive this? Does this moment require revelation or reflection? If it's not safe, if it's not sacred, if it doesn't serve your vision, keep it. Not because you're hiding, but because you're building. Privacy is not emptiness. It's incubation. And your silence, it's not a void. It's a shield, a sacred pause, a quiet workshop where real power is forged far from the noise. So protect your inner fortress. Tend to your dreams like fire. Whisper only when the world is ready to listen. Until then, be the silence no one can read and the force no one saw coming. They'll tell you, be proud of your wins. Celebrate yourself. Post it. Share it. Tell the world. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you speak about your success, the more you start needing people to witness it. And the moment you need to be seen, you give away your center. Real Stoics. They don't broadcast their victories. They live them. Quietly, powerfully, with zero need for validation, because they know. Attention is a distraction in disguise. When you talk about your achievements, you're not just sharing facts, you're shifting energy. Outward, you move from doing to proving, from growth to performance, and slowly, without realizing it, you begin living for the audience. You start crafting updates instead of outcomes. You start measuring worth by applause. And soon, your compass, your inner compass starts spinning. Because every time you seek external approval, you abandon your own authority. But when you don't speak, when you let your work breathe in silence, when you stay focused, intentional, composed, that's when your power builds. Internally, privately, invisibly. And that is the most dangerous kind of growth. The Stoics weren't against success. They weren't against ambition. But they were mercilessly clear on this. Success should refine you, not define you. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Don't explain your wins. Live them. Don't show the process. Master it." Imagine a man training in the dark. No cameras. No audience. Just sweat, silence, and discipline. By the time the world sees him, he's already unstoppable. And no one can figure out how he did it. Because they never saw it coming. Because he didn't need to talk. To become, that's what Stoicism teaches. Be the storm they never saw building. Now here's something psychology confirms. When we talk about our goals or wins too early, our brain releases dopamine. It feels like we've already achieved something, even when we haven't. That's why talking can kill your momentum. It gives you the illusion of progress, without the pressure to keep going. But when you withhold the story, when you keep it sacred, you stay hungry, you stay dangerous, you stay real. Think about it like this. If a tree grows in silence for 20 years, it doesn't make noise. But one day, it towers over the forest. No announcement, no spotlight, just presence. That's what you should aim for. Let me be clear. This isn't about hiding who you are or pretending you don't achieve anything. This is about where your power flows. If it flows into performance, you'll burn out chasing eyes. But if it flows into process, you'll become someone who doesn't just win once. You win forever. Your success is not a performance. It's not a press release. It's not a highlight reel. It's a discipline, a mindset, a system. The most magnetic people don't need to talk about how successful they are. Their presence carries proof. They speak less. But when they speak, people lean in, because silence builds mystery. Mystery builds intrigue, and intrigue is power. The world today is obsessed with noise. Look at me, like me, validate me. But what cuts through noise? Stillness. Stillness, grounded in real work, real depth, real clarity. If you want to be unforgettable, don't shout. Build. Let people wonder where you've been. Let them ask how you did it. And when they ask, smile and say nothing, because your work already answered. Now, let's talk about legacy. You don't want to be the person who once did something great. You want to become the kind of person whose entire life is proof of mastery. And that doesn't happen through words. It happens through repetition, through patience, through mastery of craft, even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching, because that's where real transformation happens. In the shadows, in the quiet, in the boring, daily choices no one sees. So the next time you achieve something, don't rush to tell the world. Tell your journal. Tell your creator. Tell no one, until it's undeniable. That's when it becomes legend. Not just success. Here's the Stoic challenge. Work in silence. Track your progress, not your praise. Create results so real they don't need to be explained. Let your actions be your message. Let your peace be your armor. Let your life be a quiet revolution. Because at the end of the day, the loudest one in the room is rarely the most powerful, but the silent one, the one who doesn't speak unless it's necessary, the one who walks while others talk, that's the one who wins. Let success whisper. Let your silence thunder. You're not obligated to tell anyone your next move. Not your friends. Not your family. Not the world. Not even the version of you that wants to feel productive by talking about it. Because power doesn't speak before it's ready. It waits. And when the time comes, it hits without a sound. There's something sacred about planning in the dark, about moving in silence, about executing with zero announcement. The Stoics understood this. You don't gain strength by being loud. You gain it by being calculated, by staying focused while others are distracted by applause. In the game of life, every move you reveal early is a move you've just handed to the opposition. Think of your next goal, your vision, your plan, your mission. The more you talk about it, the more you dilute its fire. You open the door to opinions, criticism, doubt, even from those who love you. Not everyone deserves to see the blueprint. Not everyone will understand it. And not everyone wants you to build it. But when you keep it quiet, you protect the signal from the noise. You keep your inner compass clear. You stay locked in, uninterrupted. You train like a shadow fighter, quiet, disciplined, sharp. And when you strike, no one sees it coming. That's real strategy. People love to announce their dreams. It makes them feel good, feel committed. But here's the trick. Talking gives you the illusion of progress without any of the work. It's emotional fast food. It tastes good, but it weakens your hunger. Silence. Silence keeps you starving, focused, urgent. The Stoic approach isn't tell them when it's ready. It's don't tell them at all. Let them see it when it's undeniable. When you reveal too soon, you trigger expectations. And expectations are traps. They pull you into performance mode. They lock you into outcomes you haven't finished building. They make you afraid to change direction. But when no one knows what you're working on, you're free. You're dangerous. You're untouchable. Every step you take should be intentional. Like a chess master, like a general in war. You don't explain your formation. You move. Quietly, efficiently. And by the time the world sees what's happening, it's already done. That's Stoic power. That's control in motion. Even Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king himself, believed in this restraint. He didn't preach his plans. He lived them. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Don't argue what your next move is. Make it. Then disappear again. Let the silence speak louder than your words ever could. Look, this world is noisy. Everyone is selling a vision, talking big, pitching the future, hyping the dream. But most of it vapor. It's not real, just a performance. But when you go quiet and focus on the work, people start to notice. They sense something. They may not know what it is, but they feel it. That quiet energy, that silent certainty, that's what makes people respect you. Not because you told them what you're doing, but because they know whatever you're building. It's serious. Here's the shift. Stop announcing. Start building. Keep your projects private. Keep your goals sacred. Keep your hunger internal. Don't rob yourself of momentum just to feel seen. Let the work become the proof. Let the silence become the force. You don't need to defend your choices. You don't need to explain your plans. You don't need to validate your path. Just move and keep moving. Like water cutting through stone. Quiet, persistent, unstoppable. So here's the Stoic challenge. Next time you feel the urge to share what you're planning, pause. Ask yourself, does this need to be said or just done? If it needs to be said, you're not ready to act. If it needs to be done, you're already ahead. Protect the power of the unspoken, because real moves aren't announced, they arrive. And when they do, they don't just surprise people, they change everything. Plan in shadows. Strike in silence. Let the world find out. When it's too late to stop you, Every moment you spend judging others is a moment stolen from building yourself. Every time you speak about someone else's flaws, you chip away at your own focus. The Stoic understands this. Gossip isn't harmless. It's distraction in disguise. It weakens your discipline. It inflates your ego. And it betrays your purpose. While the world obsesses over what others are doing, the Stoic watches silently, not to judge, but to learn. He doesn't waste breath trying to seem virtuous by pointing fingers. He invests that breath into refining his own principles. Because you cannot walk the Stoic path and wander into petty talk at the same time. When you speak about others, you scatter your mind. You lose internal gravity. You give away control. And worst of all, you trade sharpness for noise. Real sharpness isn't forged in conversation. It's built in solitude. It's sharpened by self-reflection, not by dissecting the lives of others. Here's the trap. Cheap conversations are seductive. They offer a quick hit of superiority, but leave you weaker, emptier, reactive. They feed the part of you that wants comparison, wants to feel better by putting someone else down. But the Stoic doesn't play that game. He doesn't climb by dragging others lower. He rises by lifting himself higher. Ask yourself this: what if I use the energy I waste judging others to improve my own thinking, my own habits, my own discipline? What if I protected my focus like gold and didn't spend it on conversations that produce nothing? The truth is, every pointless judgment you make is time stolen from building the operating system of your own life. So, here's your challenge. Don't talk about others for 1 week. No gossip, no critique, no reactive opinions. Just observation, reflection, inner construction. If someone invites you to gossip, don't join. If someone critique, stay silent. Let them wonder why you're so calm, so unshaken, so focused. Because the most powerful person in the room isn't the one who speaks the most. It's the one who speaks the least and listens the deepest. Judgment is a habit, and so is silence. Choose wisely. Your attention is your currency. Spend it only where growth compounds. Let others talk. You build. Let others scatter. You focus. Let others react. You refine. The Stoic path is quiet, but it echoes forever. They told you that good deeds should be shared to inspire others, to motivate, to prove that kindness still exists. But the Stoic disagrees, because when goodness is used as a performance, it stops being goodness. True kindness doesn't need a stage. It doesn't wait for recognition. It doesn't pose for photos or ask for applause. It simply gives, quietly, consistently, without expecting anything in return. That's not weakness. That's moral strength. When you do something kind and tell the world about it, ask yourself, who was that really for? Was it for the one in need or for your own ego? Was it an act of compassion or a subtle transaction for validation? The Stoics understood this deeply. As Seneca once wrote, the reward for a good deed is to have done it, not to have it noticed, not to have it celebrated, not to have it reposted. To have done it, that's enough. Because when your goodness is quiet, it becomes sacred. You protect the purity of the act. You protect your internal compass. And most importantly, you protect your motivation. You're not acting out of need for praise. You're acting out of alignment with your values. That is power. Now let's be honest. We live in a world where silence is overlooked, where noise wins, where people feel invisible unless they share. But here's what the Stoic knows. The most powerful forces in nature move in silence. The earth rotates without a sound. The ocean carves through rock with silent persistence. A seed becomes a tree without needing to announce anything. Kindness is the same. The deeper it runs, the less it talks. Because the more centered you are, the less you need external validation. You don't need to be seen doing good. You just need to do it. Let's talk about energy. Every time you broadcast your good deeds, you're sending your internal energy outward. You're outsourcing your sense of worth. And over time, you build a habit. Only be good when someone's watching. But Stoic kindness trains the opposite. It teaches, be good, because that's who you are. Not because you'll get points for it. Not because someone's camera is on, just because it's right. Here's the deeper truth. The moment your virtue becomes performance, it begins to decay. You start needing validation like oxygen, and your character starts to starve. The Stoic avoids that trap. He feeds his character quietly. He gives in secret. He helps with no announcement. He walks away before he's thanked. That's not cold. That's clean. Now let's make this practical. You don't need to be a monk. Just do something kind for someone who can't repay you, without a camera, without a caption, without even telling your closest friend. Make it a private ritual, not a post, not a story. Just a moment between you and your conscience. That's where your true power grows. Here's the challenge. This week, hold back from public praise. Choose silence over spotlight. Donate in private. Compliment in secret. Lift someone up, then disappear from the frame. And when your mind screams, share this so they know you're good. Smile and stay silent, because you know virtue that needs to be seen was never real. Let's end with this. There's a quiet nobility in being kind and walking away before the applause. That's when you know your heart is clean. That's when you know you've won. Not out loud, but deep inside. In a world that shouts, you become unforgettable. By whispering, that's not just stoic, that's timeless. They say you should open up, let people in, expose the wounds, and they'll heal. But the Stoic knows something deeper. Not every listener is a healer, and not every place is safe to bleed. When you share your weakness in the wrong room, it's not therapy, it's self-sabotage. Because you're not just revealing pain, you're handing over weapons. Weapons that can be turned against you when you least expect it. A Stoic doesn't deny weakness. He just doesn't display it. He doesn't seek pity. He seeks strength. He observes the cracks in his armor, then strengthens them in silence. He doesn't broadcast his battles. He wins them quietly, one by one. Here's the modern trap. We've been sold the idea that sharing equals healing. That talking is always release. That expression is always empowerment. But the Stoic asks, what if silence is the stronger path? What if the real healing happens, not when you're heard, but when you sit with the wound and tend to it yourself, not by oversharing, but by outgrowing it? Because here's what happens when you talk too soon. You leak energy. You invite opinions. You risk misunderstanding. And worst of all, you confuse release with repair. But silence forces you to process, to own your pain, to build from it, not just talk around it. Think of your weaknesses like unguarded gates. Every time you open them to the wrong person, you risk an invasion. But when you guard them, not with denial, but with discipline, you give yourself space to grow stronger before the world gets a say. That's not hiding. That's strategy. Seneca once warned, "The person who reveals his weakness to all is like a city without walls." That's not Stoicism. That's recklessness. The Stoic builds walls, not to keep people out, but to keep his inner peace in. So here's the paradox. You can heal without speaking. You can evolve without explaining. You can transform without making your pain a public event. Because the Stoic doesn't need a witness. He just needs the will. The deeper work, the real rewiring, happens in solitude, in quiet, where no one is watching, no one is judging, no one is feeding off your pain. It's just you, your weakness, and your choice to become stronger than it. Here's the challenge. Next time you're tempted to say, "I'm really struggling right now," pause. Ask yourself, is this a safe place to share? Is this person a builder or just curious? And if not, hold it. Not forever, just long enough to strengthen it from the inside. Because when you emerge from that internal work, when your old wound becomes your new armor, you won't need to explain anything. Your energy will tell the story. The glow in your presence, the calm in your speech, the steadiness in your eye contact. They'll see it without needing to know where it came from. And that is the most powerful kind of transformation. Guard your weaknesses. Not from fear, but from wisdom. Fix them where no one's watching. Sharpen them in silence. Turn them into weapons that only you know how to wield. That's not avoidance. That's emotional armor. And in a world that overexposes, the most untouchable man is the one who knows how to protect his depth. That's Stoic. That's elite. Your dream is a flame, delicate, sacred, not meant to burn in the wind of opinions. And yet, most people share it too early. Expose it to noise. Let others breathe doubt into it before it's had time to take root. The Stoic knows better. He understands. Not everything precious is meant to be public. When a seed is planted, you don't dig it up every day to show it off. You protect it. You water it in silence. You give it time. You give it faith. Because growth needs privacy, not attention. Your vision doesn't need to be announced. It needs to be built. You don't need validation to begin. You need focus. You need discipline. You need quiet fire. The modern world says, speak it into existence. Declare it to manifest it. But the Stoic says, guard it until it's unshakable. Because speaking a dream doesn't make it real. Working in silence does. Here's what happens when you speak too soon. People project fear. They judge. They question your timing, your logic, your ability. And suddenly you're carrying their doubts instead of your own blueprint. You lose direction. You lose belief. You start building to impress instead of to fulfill. A dream is energy. When you talk about it, you release that energy outward. But when you hold it close, when you nurture it alone, you concentrate its power. You fuel momentum. You build pressure. Until one day, you burst onto the scene not with a pitch, but with a finished product. And the world watches with quiet awe. The Stoic doesn't post about the grind. He grinds. He doesn't preview the outcome. He builds it. He doesn't chase attention. He earns it with silence and consistency. That's why he's unstoppable. You don't need permission to start. You don't need cheerleaders. You don't even need to be seen. You need only this: a promise between you and your higher self, a contract signed in solitude to finish what you began without needing applause. Think of your dream as sacred fire. Letting too many people near it means risking extinguishment, but guarding it, stoking it quietly, means it grows into something no one can ignore. Because the Stoic knows, a storm can't drown a fire that's protected underground. The longer you build in the shadows, the stronger your launch becomes. You don't need to announce every milestone. Let your results announce you. You don't need to convince people to believe. Let your progress convert them. And you don't need to win in public. Just win, even if no one sees it yet. So here's your challenge. Whatever dream you're carrying, keep it sacred. Nurture it in the quiet. Protect it from opinions, from distractions, from the need to be validated. Trust that your silence is not a delay, but a cocoon. And when it's time, you won't need to say anything. Your life will show it. Your discipline, your calm, your undeniable trajectory. Because a dream built without noise creates a reality that doesn't need to shout. That's Stoic. That's power. That's how you protect the flame. Solitude isn't isolation. It's sacred restoration. It's not a punishment. It's a practice. And in a world addicted to noise, those who embrace solitude carry the rarest kind of strength, stillness. We've been conditioned to fear silence, to fill every pause with music, conversation, distraction. But the Stoic, he runs toward the silence. He knows it's not empty. It's full of answers, of realignment, of clarity. You see, the loudest people in the room are often the most unsettled. They need constant interaction to avoid facing themselves. But the Stoic, he seeks the moment when all the noise fades and the only voice left is his own. Because solitude is where you meet your truest self, where you test your beliefs without applause, where you train your mind to sit still long enough to hear what it really needs. In solitude, you return to your blueprint. You recenter. You recalibrate. You stop performing, and you just be. That's where real presence comes from, not from a curated identity, but from knowing who you are when nobody's watching. Solitude isn't weakness. It's discipline. And it's not a luxury, it's necessary. The Stoics understood this. They practiced daily stillness. They journaled. They walked in silence. They chose to confront their chaos by stepping into silence, not avoiding it. Because stillness isn't passive. It's power, under control. It's where you choose your response. Instead of reacting, where you hold space for discomfort instead of running from it, where you forge armor not of steel, but of clarity. Here's a truth no one talks about. You don't find wisdom in a crowded room. You don't grow by constantly being seen. You grow when you're alone with your thoughts, your fears, your truths. Because when the crowd leaves, when the notifications stop, when the spotlight fades, that's when your real character steps forward. Solitude doesn't make you weird. It makes you dangerous in the best way possible. Because when you're no longer afraid to be alone, no one can manipulate you with loneliness. When you don't need noise, you're not dependent on attention. And when you choose solitude, you reclaim the most rare kind of freedom, the freedom to think. Great ideas. They weren't born in noise. They were born in long walks, in quiet mornings, in journals written by candlelight, in conversations between your higher self and your present self. And if you want to live a life that's original, you need time alone to hear the original thoughts. So here's your challenge. Don't just tolerate solitude. Schedule it. Prioritize it. Protect it like you would protect a treasure, because that's what it is. Create a sacred space for stillness, a room, a walk, a time of day when the world can't touch you. Turn off the noise. Sit in the quiet and listen, not for answers, but for alignment. Because when you're calm, you think clearer. When you're alone, you remember what matters. And when you embrace solitude, you return to yourself, not the self the world told you to be, but the self you were before the noise. True power isn't how loud you can be. It's how deeply you can sit in stillness without needing the world to applaud you. And when you carry that stillness into the chaos, you don't react. You lead. You anchor. That's Stoic. That's rare. That's why silence always wins. The most powerful people don't raise their voice. They raise their standards, and they move quietly. They don't need to dominate the room, because they own their presence, without needing to prove anything. Their silence isn't emptiness, it's a message. And if you listen closely, you'll feel it before they speak. Pick one Stoic habit, just one. Practice it every day until it becomes muscle memory, until it becomes your essence, until the world doesn't need you to explain who you are, because your energy does it for you. In a loud world, quiet is magnetic, stillness is influence, and self-mastery is the final form of power. If this video helped you shift your mindset, like, subscribe, and share the silence. Drop a comment below. What Stoic habit are you building right now? Let the world hear your silence.